Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 334 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In this episode, we are going to finish up with the ingot bus, this time by adding in glass made from infinite methods. Enjoy. And one thought that occurred to me is we do have a station that is being unused. It's this one right here. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere, but part of me is wondering, is there a way we could reuse it without having to build another station somewhere? But although we're running out of space on the end of this, there is plenty of space around here to do glass. The best method, and actually doing 60 a second may not be enough because of just the quantity of glass that we use. But actually I think that all of that glass was for blue science, and since Science Cost Tweaker changed the way that that science worked, that you don't need nearly as much glass as you used to. That's kind of what my gut's telling me. Interestingly, you cannot put productivity modules into glass, so it's just speeds, so we're down to 2 machines, and we can use the factory's nitrogen. Wasn't really checking if our factory was keeping up with all that nitrogen, and it totally is. So we can do the same here, and just reuse it. So we need a couple machines making the glass mixtures, but it's going to have to be 2, but that is direct insertion, or direct piping in this case. And then we have our 4 choices. I'm fine with using alumina to reduce the silicon requirement, and it also reduces the lime requirement too. But I don't think I want to go this final step, because then that would require sodium carbonate, which is kind of hard to make, and sodium sulfate, and that's a lot of work just to not use silicon anymore. So I think I'll do number 3. I guess I should check though that the only thing that might make one better than the other is speed. The speeds are all the same, and it might look like you're getting more and more because you get more glass mixture with each step. Well, each step also requires one more resource. So strictly speaking, from a resource perspective, they're all about the same. Although number 4 is interesting in the sense that it doesn't require the alumina either. So no silicon or alumina. So basically just stuff that can be made infinitely, which might be worth it. Let's see what this turns out to be. Well, sodium carbonate. Does our factory have any hope of keeping up with that? Seems like it would. These 3, when they're going, easily make it, but they have to be making carbon to do that. And our infinite generator does put out 10. So that's probably reasonable. Sodium sulfate, however, we can make it from brown liquor, or sodium hydroxide and sulfuric acid. Or we can get it from hydrochloric acid. I'm pretty sure we're already doing that, but we're just reprocessing it into something else, so we can just choose not to. But I'm actually thinking that making sodium sulfate from sodium hydroxide is a good choice, just because our factory has so much salt and so much sodium hydroxide that we're just overloaded on both. So this could be something to get rid of it, and certainly sulfuric acid is easy enough to make. So yeah, I think we should do it the best way. And 1 machine for that. Okay, that's pretty good. We do need to make the lime and make the sand. Well, lime is cooked from limestone, which requires a little bit of mud water, but that setup's a lot smaller than the one we picked up, so we should probably just rebuild it and do this instead. The other thing is the tin, but that's just a circular process. And luckily it doesn't require any extra resources. Just that 1 machine, and then it's taken care of. Okay, how about we build the glass setup first, and then we'll pipe everything into it. And how has all this been going while we've been waiting? Well, the repository is almost out of tungsten, so this is certainly grinding through it. But it's getting full, so we'll just have to let it go. When the repository empties, we still have 80k of tungsten on the ore bus, and then when that actually gets low, then the crystallizers will be making tungsten exclusively. It won't be the end of the world when we run out. I think we did have the mud pipe down here somewhere, but luckily this is a similar resource to a lot of things that are down here, so it's not out of place to put it here. And oh yeah, we did need to have the machine to make the fiberglass as well. And the fiberglass comes from molten glass, so we can just pipe that into a casting machine and get that done. It probably makes sense to just put a train station over here Although we could use that unused station. It's not that far away. And if we're only doing one belt, we could actually get it in here, which is funny. So maybe we should, just so we don't have to build another station. And we have been saving that station, so let's use it. Alright, well, we're going to have these two. Let's put a space in there, and we don't want to mash them right up next to each other because we need to have space to grab that molten glass away for the fiberglass. And then we have the machines making the glass mixture, but we could potentially have something coming straight through the middle. So each machine's going to need 24 in, which is 2 inserters. And then we're just going to have kind of mixed belts coming in here for the other resources. And it's going to kind of just be a bunch of random machines. So perhaps we should start just piping everything in now, just where it so happens to be. And this is as good a spot as any. It's not very crowded here, so no reason to be complicated about it. So there we go. If we do that, we'll get one of our 4. Let's get the sodium sulfate in here. It does also have some water, which we can electrolyze away, but we can also kind of just throw it in this tank right here, assuming this is actually actively running, which it may not be. So in that sense, we should probably electrolyze. It's actually quite a bit of water, but also very doable with 2 machines. So let's, like, put it out here. Actually, it might be slightly cleaner if it was down here instead. That is a lot of acid, though. 480 per second. But we tend to have a lot, so it's probably not that big a deal to use it. So the electrolyzers can just be right here, and they need to deliver the resources down. Oh man, I got a weird belt here. Oh, that's the mud water, which we do need to send up. So that's what that's there for. So we'll continue to use it. We're working on it. We're working on it. I know you don't have glass. Most everything, but now we need a whole bunch of sodium hydroxide. And I'm pretty sure that belt has been upgraded already. So it's going to be no big deal to send a bunch of it up here. And that is a 60 per second belt. But when they get here, we should have our second of the 4 resources. Yep. Seems to work. Put that one in there. And each one of these needs only like 3 per second, but let's do a purple inserter, just so there's no throughput limitations. Okay, now we need the lime and the sand. And I don't think we're actually going to need that carbon for anything. That's not part of this process anymore. But we do need a fuel, but it doesn't have to be carbon. I mean, it could be coal, because it's right here. So why not? Let's send up that pipe with the muddy water through here. And I guess we can just keep it in line. Going through each one. Also, we need a token amount of water for this, so we can just kind of slap it in there. These machines will create mud. There probably was a mud depot here at some point. There isn't anymore, so we'll have to make another one. And that's getting started up quickly. Let's do the more complicated of the 2 first. We need to pull out the light mud water. Oh, it looks like these recipes aren't set correctly, because this needs to be number 2. That one needs to be number 3. Light mud water is on the end. And it also requires more water. But we need a few machines for this. So let's space them out. It's amazing how much smaller these setups are now compared to the one that was removed. Because, yeah, this was the old one. And this is so much smaller. But that makes all of the lime. Let's put something here. Probably use red belts just to make it easier on the inserters. Might help to make them purple. But let's put a stack down here. We need a fuel, which we can totally just kind of steel from coal, because why not? It's right there. And that's about ready to go. We also do need to pipe in the carbon dioxide, which looks like it's right here. And that's one of the outputs. The other one we need is sand, which comes from thin mud water. And actually, that's a further step than this. So it's going to look a little weird, but we'll just plop this right here on the end like nothing's different. That'll pump out the thin. And then we need 2 more, which we'll just put right here. We do need to snake this mud belt around, though. It's a very organic design, this thing. Then the other resource will come in here. It will already be on the belt properly. Let's see, that's probably not going to be fast enough, so we'll do that. And there we go. Guess we can test it out. Of course, we need inserters. And on the other side, too. Who would have guessed? And it moved, and it stopped. Okay. We've got that much taken care of. We need to get the nitrogen in there, and then we need to do the processing of the tin. But we probably can do direct insertion with this. So let's lower the amount of speed modules, just so it requires 2 machines, and just have them on the end. And these are separate from each other, so it doesn't need any special kind of logic. And unfortunately, just because of the position of the pipes, it has to be this way. If we don't interconnect these, we can have the pipe go underneath and have it like do something like that. That one is a lot easier. Although I kind of want it to be 1 square lower, even though it's less straight as a whole. It looks the same as the other side, so I kind of want to do that. Okay, we'll need some ingots to get the process started, but that's easy enough. And now the nitrogen is conveniently over here, so we can just run the pipe. It's actually kind of a lot in a small space with this, with all the little things going in and out of it. Make sure we're pulling out of the right side. I actually don't think we are by doing this, because the factory's nitrogen comes in through here, and then it outputs other places, but this setup is generating the nitrogen for here, but it doesn't get access to the factories, which means we probably want that to be connected like this. So now that gets pumped up, but that's using factory nitrogen, and now we can use the connection. Well, the repository, besides being very low on oil residuals, is now completely out of tungsten. So now the only tungsten that remains is stuff that's being held in buffers. And in fact, it's basically gone. That the only bit that's left is still in there, and it's being metered into this warehouse. But soon the level will start to go down, and also soon we'll be out of oil residuals. So now we need the output, which it's going to be 30 for each side. Unfortunately, that is kind of in the way. Will a distance change work here? It's actually fine in this case. That's weird how other times I tested it, it didn't. There's our belt. We need to grab tin, but we also need to pick a belt to use here. Well, actually, I guess it could be this one, because silicon is no longer necessary. It does still have to go into making the monosilicon, though, which is kind of funny, but it is what it is. So in this case, we can't get rid of that slot. The actual station is right here, next to the silicon. So it probably could use the same slot all the way until the very end, when it moves somewhere else. So let's have this come up through here, and go on in. And it looks like this was initially set up as an unloading station, and I admit it was so long ago that I have no idea what this was. Since glass isn't very dense, let's upgrade the inserters. Well, it says it was cobalt oxide, so maybe that's what it was. It's weird how the belts were the wrong direction. Oh, I remember. We were emptying out the station, so we had to move the belts backwards. But I was kind of confused why the inserters were still in the other direction. But we're good here. Let's just use this. And we can call this glass load. It's nice to be able to repurpose that. So at the last second, we can do a zigzag right there. Let's get this belt fully connected so when it starts running, we can see it at full power. Also, LTN will stop complaining. Right on cue. Alright, well, the last thing we had to do was make some of those fiberglass, but not sure exactly how much machine it would need. Probably not much. I imagine a bunch of speed modules could probably put this out quite quickly. Well, kind of, but also kind of not. That would require 600 molten glass, and our setup is working on 480. So let's just say 480 is what we have. So we would need 4 of them. So only one or the other will be able to run at full power, but they both can. But this does mean that if we can get these pipes lined up, we would need 2 of them. But let's see here. What if we did down here and like down there? Then they're both connected. Actually, it might be nice just to put some gaps in there so walking by is easier. I'm not sure how much of this stuff we actually need. It feels like we don't really need that much of it. Especially because it's just a yellow belt. But nonetheless, it will have been upgraded now. I think one thing that happened was our factory created a whole bunch of it on accident, and it just took forever to get through it. So it kind of hid how much of it we actually needed. Hook them all up. And they're kind of hard to see, but it's making the fiberglass. Probably should let it run for a second just so it gets maxed out. Oh, interesting. It has molten glass and it's 1500 degrees Celsius. That's cool. Let's check molten iron here. Oh, it does actually have the temperature. That's cool. I hadn't noticed that. 1538. Copper is 1085. Looks like things like the alloys don't have any temperatures. But tin is 231. Solder's in there at 200. Lead is 327. 0.5. They put the 0.5 in there? That seems excessive. Silicon, 1414. Aw, titanium is 0. Gold, 1064. Silver, 961. 0.8. Gotta get the 0.8 in there. Aluminum, 660. 0.3. Nickel, 1455. Zinc, 419.5. Nothing for nitinol. So that's cool that they added that in there. Feels a little more realistic, but I think we're pretty good. Looks like it got caught up on everything, and we're ready to rock and roll. We just need some ingots. So 1, 2, and 1, 2, and they should stay on their own sides. Well, no. We needed filter inserters. Got some cleaning to do. Actually, this is probably a good place to dump glass. Not sure if this will conflict with anything, but let's do a buffer chest here for glass. Let's see if it actually starts picking up the glass. Yeah, it does. So we can't use a buffer chest there because glass is being supplied elsewhere. It could just be like a glass warehouse or something, but the easy solution is just to make this storage. Okay, well, We don't have an exact equal number of ingots on both sides now, which is kind of annoying. But oh well. We'll just put it in there and connect it up. So that's going to drain. And here we go. Make sure both of these sides stay basically the same. And they seem to be. And all of this is running fast. Compared to what's going on up here, what's down here seems pretty slow. But I really like how that's a nice dump of sodium hydroxide. And we are electrolyzing all that water away. It seems more complicated than it is. It just kind of requires a bunch of random stuff. The glass is quickly getting loaded in here, and once it gets loaded up high enough, LTN will stop complaining about it because it'll actually find him. And that means we're basically done. We might revisit this with the final tiers of certain things, but for the most part, we will be able to just reuse the existing setup and change the recipe, and all the pipes will be lined up. The only thing that might change are the tungsten setups, and hey, that tungsten got maxed out, so now it's just these others going super slow. But they're actually making decent progress. So they will be filled up, and we won't totally run out of resources. But while we're here, we should probably consider some of these resources. Like the glass mixture, for example. We can totally clear out with the buffer chest, and that'll grab it all. Some other things that are a little weird, like lead oxide. We don't even use that anymore, so that's something we'll probably just have to throw away. Aluminum hydroxide is kind of the same thing. It's just not a part of the process anymore, so we can chuck it. Nickel cathodes, kind of the same thing. However, silver nitrate is an interesting thing, because it actually goes into two things. One is silver ingots, and the other is silver oxide, and that silver oxide, besides requiring sodium hydroxide, goes into our zinc batteries. We don't want to throw away what we have, but also what's kind of annoying is we're essentially going to still have to make it anyway, which is kind of frustrating. So it essentially requires a tier 2 step for us to save. And let's see, are we going to have room for it? Because it requires processed silver. I suppose kind of, like we can pull this silver off to the side, but that might be a situation where we just want to do it somewhere else. Like actually potentially up here. It would be really long belt, but we could send a belt all the way down here, come up, and then we can do it somewhere over here and then send it to where batteries are. But nonetheless, silver nitrate is something that we want to actually save because we can reprocess it. The other things would require us to make an old setup, and it would be just for that. And I think I'd rather just destroy them than go through all of that. Let's make sure it's not making a huge glass request. It doesn't seem to, so it's safe to use that. Silicon nitride should go to where it needs to if we just pick it up. Sodium hydroxide should. So I think the rest of those, if we take them out of the warehouse, they should go to their proper location. No glass yet, huh? Is it just not filled up enough? Yeah, basically. Oh, and that belt is the wrong way. Wait, can we use robots for this instead of going down there just to flip it? There we go. Thanks for helping, robots. Okay, well, we need a box to just destroy stuff in, so I guess we'll pick that. We have the nickel cathodes. That lead oxide. It's just funny seeing all these robots in here. Aluminum hydroxide. But they just got placed here because they had nowhere to be parked. But eventually, when we make a big request, they will go to where they need to. Okay. There's all of that. I really want to like do something with all these brass gear wheels because I figured we would use them all up, but we kind of haven't been. So let's just reverse factory them away. At least as far as we can take them anyway. So, do these small artifacts no longer have somewhere to go? Because this is where they should go. I see, the requests just aren't big enough. And I would be shocked if sodium hydroxide didn't have somewhere to go. But maybe it doesn't. We could help the robots here by just picking them up out of here and parking them. Not that it really matters, they would have fixed themselves anyway, but it might be slightly less triggering to some people to not see the robots in the junk warehouse. Alright, so they are picking up the resources and taking them over here, which makes sense. But there's only so much space in here, then it's going to run out. But nonetheless, I guess we will just reverse factory them away. I'd probably rather see them in plate form than gear form. So these just need to have bigger requests, since they stack so high. Which means that to fill up this thing, it can actually hold 24,000. Because these are the good orbs, we don't want to burn these away. If anything, the ones we want to burn are the generic ones that don't have any color. So that pulled those away. So now the junk we're left with, just things that have nowhere to go quite yet. All of those gear wheels and then the silicon nitride here. Kind of want to pick it up and see if it actually goes somewhere. So many gears. Guess I'll just throw them into other chests so they go away. There we go. It's cleared out of all the junk. And let's destroy this and hopefully we shoot it faster than the bots get to it. Barely, but we can. Probably could have blew it up instantly with the sniper rifle, but it makes so much noise I didn't want to. Repository at 30k. But let's turn logistics back on and see what happens here. Well, sodium hydroxide got taken somewhere that wasn't here, so that's good news. Yep, the rest of this stuff are things we would just want to hang on to. Well, now that we have all of those resources available, now we can start making new items. But that's going to have to wait until the next episode. Thanks for watching, and I will see you later.